So I think now we can start. After the short introduction, we will proceed with our conversation. Thank you so much to you for joining this discussion, because it's very relevant that regardless of all the borders, which are currently also mostly closed, young people from different countries remain empowered and ready to present best practices, share ideas, solutions, and to cooperate for smarter, more inclusive, sustainable, and innovative world. My name is Karina Radchenko. As a founder of Partnership for Advancing Innovative Sustainability project, I'm delighted today to host this conversation in terms of SDGs Lead editions, series of conversations with prominent SDGs changemakers worldwide. And today I will be talking with two wonderful changemakers from Nigeria and Liberia. Ubani Vivian, passionate about child care and education, leadership. She is a child care professional with over 6 years of experience, executive director of education sustainability and vocational development initiative, as well as the CEO of the registered startup in Nigeria in the field of desert. She is also the member of Delta Epsilon Tau International Honor Society of Ashworth College, a member of Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, getting involved in numerous initiatives as a volunteer as well, and as a leader, young leader, trailblazing better future for her country, Nigeria. As well as today we have with us Tyson from Liberia, Executive Director of For Kids International, which is Liberia's youth-led development organization established in 2017, that aims to create and promote the children's and youth empowerment through advocacy, capacity building, leadership. He is also international speaker, renowned public speaker. It's really great that you have joined us today. Thank you so much for this opportunity to learn from you and to get deeper into your patience, into your experiences, and overall youth-to-youth vision of this world in terms of our personal efforts to make this world a really better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that great introduction. We highly appreciate you for hosting us as well.
Thank you so much once again. Vivian, let us start with you in terms of your experience. How did you start your journey as a change maker? And could you please also briefly share your current scope of work, activities, why you are so passionate about empowerment of youth and children in your country? What makes you moving forward?
Oh, thank you very much. Everything that I have done and still doing is an embodiment of my experience. So why am I passionate about education? So the reason is that in 2017, as at the time I was getting ready for my West African Examination Council, which is a final examination when you're leaving the secondary school to the tertiary institution. So at that point, I was a very smart kid. I loved to read, I loved study times, I loved to challenge my teachers a lot. So they kind of loved me, and then, so prior to that was a struggle to pay my tuition in school. But at a point, my mom really knew how important and how smart I was. So she had to go all the way to loan some money so she could pay for my tuition and to pay for the examination. And in between the period, we were actually having a rough time in my family at that time. So education is very important. And coming from the first generation and the first to get a bachelor's degree in my generation is something amazing. And actually, I wanted to change the narrative. As a young woman, as a girl child, and then my background, I have two sisters and I'm the oldest. So there is this, so much priority that is being given to the boy child from my tribe. So it assumes when you are building a family and you don't have a boy child, then the home isn't complete. So we actually had our own fair share of experience at the time when I had an aunt who always pressured my dad to get a boy child or go out there to adopt a child. But my dad was very resilient. He loved us so much that he didn't give so much attention to that. So that's also a motivation for me. So changing the narrative that is coming from my background, that aspect, and also being a role model, also want to be an inspiration to other young girls who have been marginalized in some way, and also to encourage the girl child that, everything is possible if you actually put your mind to that. So it's been a wonderful experience and I'm grateful for that. My journey has been not so sweet, kind of, because we had to work our way through to support ourselves. And then I took up a job in childcare, and that's how my passion for childcare started. Okay, so I graduated from secondary school finally, and then got a job as a nanny, where I worked for, I think, over 6 years. And while on the job, I knew that education is still really, really important for me. So I had to discontinue to go back to school at the age of 23. So I graduated at a very young age, and I'm really proud that I have actually gone this far, to develop myself, to grow from, from where I started, because it is intentional for me. I could have dropped out. I could have maybe do something else, but I needed to change the narrative. I wanted to show my younger sisters that, they could be more, they could aspire to become greater and more successful. So they're actually looking up to me. Other young girls who I've raised in church, I'm a church girl. Other young girls I've raised in church, they model me, they see how, sometimes they get to play out how I speak, how I walk, how I dress, and all of that. So most times, I really do know that people are always there looking up to me, and I'm always very careful at showing them the right path. I'm always very careful at making sure that they get the right information to develop themselves, to become better, and to become more in the society and in the global world. So education is very important to me, which is what I actually work on in my initiative. We go out there to volunteer as teachers in schools where the teachers aren't that qualified enough, or they have not so much of teachers in the school environment. Provide them with resources, put them closer, mentor them, speak to them about becoming change makers. So everything I have been doing so far, they are all interconnected. Talking about entrepreneurship, my mom, she's a businesswoman, although she didn't go to the business school, but she actually ran her business so well as entrepreneur. So I learned the baking skills from her. And when I learned that, I saw the need to, replicate that, to continue that journey, not just to feed myself as at the point when I was hungry in school. As an undergraduate, there are so much expenses, you need to buy books, you need to do a lot of things. So, and I was running out of cash. And I said to myself, I needed to get busy. I have the skills, I have to feed myself, and I also have to feed other students out there. That is why how the business started. Yeah, it's been wonderful, educating people, providing them with the right skill, providing them with the right mentorship. It's something I'm really passionate about, so that in the long run, they'll be really proud of the impact they've created, and I'll get fulfilled wherever I am that I actually change someone's life. So that's very important for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful perspective of not just keeping up with personal education, but also helping to empower and to motivate others, which I think is very important in terms of education of girls, women, and overall of young people, children, to set the role models, visibility of success stories that can help somehow to move forward regardless all these odds. And we will come back to this point that you've highlighted in terms of example from your mom of doing business, which is very componential, like business education. And I hope we will come back to it in a while. Thank you so much. Tyson Smith-Berry, could you please also tell your story about motivation and overall your scope of work, because I see there are so many similarities on your path, on your vision, and it's so great that you are together on this panel.
Thank you ever so much, Karen. Based on my upbringing, because for one fact, giving birth to me in Bon Mines Hospital, where my mother never had anything, starting my primary education, my pre-primary education at the age of 10, which really got me because there was no finance. So my father sent for me to come to the city, started living in Painesville, going to school without eating milk, walking every day, going to school. I can't remember when last I ever got on a vehicle to go to school, from primary to secondary. Throughout my life, walk to go to school, walk to come back with a reason. So I started to develop this passion when I entered the university. I said, wow, where I came from? I came from a very poor background. There's no access to education. So I started developing a passion, because I never had money. So I decided to teach in a high school to give back to society. I started teaching at one high school, Patrick Wesleyan School, developing a mind of other youth. Later, when I graduated from the university, I was opportune with a job to work with Right to Play International. So while working with Right to Play, implementation, peace building, and educational project, serving as the focal person for Right to Play in Nema County. Wow, I started developing that mindset that I can give back to society through what I have earned. So I started developing the mind of all of youth, giving back to them, giving in people who don't have the capacity, who are not capacitated to go to school. I help them with tuition as well, because where I came from, it was very difficult for me. So if I see someone sitting without going to school, that they don't have cash, I think in my capacity that I have a little one, I should share with them as well. So I started sharing with them, making sure that those children can have a sense of mind and go back to school and earn an education as well. So in that light, when Right to Play Face of Liberia, we decided to establish this institution or organization called Focus International, that we will focus directly on education, health, enhancing quality education, transforming healthcare practices, and building a cohesive, peaceful community. Because the cardinal issue here is this: if the community is not safe, education is nothing. If the community is not healthy, education is nothing. So these are the three thematics area we look at, that we, based on these three thematics area, we can make a better society in Liberia. So we started focusing on education, health, and peace building. Then, not only giving back to society, but advocating and building the capacity of others who are incapacitated. So we started building the capacity of others, youth and children in the community, and advocating on our behalf on a nationwide. So these were my passion. These are my passion. So we have started. In this case, we have learned that education remains the key pillar of Focus International since its inception. So we also learned that education has been acknowledged as one of the ways through which poverty and all other forms of deprivation can be eliminated. So if a person is educated, you observe that the level of poverty will decrease. And they will one step ahead. So these are the steps whenever the person take them to another level. So these are things that have always motivated me to take up the step to educate another person, another child. Because if I educate another child, that child is going to educate another child. So this is my principle, and this has been these are things that motivated me to step up and help other people in the educational sector. Thanks.
Thank you so much for also sharing not only your experience, but also sharing with others your expertise, your education. It's very important to create this multiple chain effect. When one person gets educated and then it's disseminated. Yesterday, literally, I was watching a kind of business seminar, and it was so interesting when one lecturer, he asked, who has higher education, who have higher education, and many people, almost 100%, raise their hands. But then when he asked who had read a kind of business books recently, or any book recently, this number of hands were much lower number. Sometimes this formal education is taken for granted, and on the other hand, for many people, it's enormous challenge to acquire this education. So here, sometimes I think through this non-formal NGOs community, we are switching towards non-formal empowerment of people, lifelong empowerment, regardless of formal certificates, but rather in terms of knowledge to create change in this world. So my question in this context, Vivian, what do you perceive as ideal empowerment system? Are there some components that should be present, like communication with labor market? Overall, what are the key criteria of efficient education system as you see? What should be present to distinguish, yes, this is right, and this is probably not perfect system?
Okay, the right structure or the right standard to get an effective educational system. First, underlies in our policy. There are lots and lots of policies, but the challenge with the policies is that they lack implementations, all right? So when a policy is rightly and efficiently implemented, then we get the right system. First, let's look at Nigeria as a case study. We have a policy that says the number of school children in a class should be between 20 to 35 ratio per teacher. But in some public schools, they are not like that. They lack implementation. There has to be some elements of accountability. There has to be some elements of checks and balances, monitoring, evaluation, supervision, and inspection. All right. Then the same policy also make room for some percentage of budgetary allocation that should be given to schools in Nigeria. So recently, first time in history, Nigeria budget for education for 2022, 2021, 2022 has top second on the list, which is amazing. I was more than excited. And it was actually the second before the health. The defense, which has to do with security aspect of the nation, and then education, and then the health. That was an amazing step for me. And one thing that has to be put into consideration is the implementation. We really need the right people on board, really need the right people to be at the table to ensure that the funds are appropriately utilized. It's not just about discussing the funds, it's about implementing the process and ensuring that they are used very, very well. That the first, which I mentioned, is implementation of policies, and then the second is funding, and the third, I would say, is which is very important, teachers development and training. So right now, the teachers have been registered as a member of the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, and so many teachers in Nigeria haven't gotten the opportunity to do that. And we will be working in my organization to get teachers to get involved, to register them through our platform. Because when you have a teacher who is skilled, who is knowledgeable, and who is qualified, there is going to be an easy transfer of knowledge, and learning is going to be fun, right? So with these three things, these are very key to me. When they are being addressed, I believe you're going to have a really, really quality education that is going to reach everyone, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of background, socioeconomic background of parents, or the kids, or wherever they come from. Because when all these things are being implemented, they tend to reach children in the rural communities, which they are the indigent children, the ones that are vulnerable to these policies. Okay, and then I'll also add that involvement of people who serve as implementers. We are the implementers of this policy. We are the ones at the grassroots, and we should be involved in decision that has to do with review and creation of policies. I think these are very important to me. That will help so well. Thank you. I hope I answered the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, also from the perspective of challenges that you faced in terms of this system, really, for many of us, it doesn't always work as proper due to this limitation. But this empowerment, this qualification of teachers help these teachers to get out of this system and to help making more motivating system. Tyson Smith, what is your vision on this in terms of probably also your personal perspective and challenges that you're currently experiencing within your organization on how to deliver these on-time empowerment solutions? What are the pros and cons of this overall educational system that you currently see?
Yes, personally, if I may speak, let me speak on a general when it comes to the education system in Liberia, the challenges faced, and then I will come to my organization, Focus. What are some challenges we face at Focus International? First, I will look at the access to quality and affordable education system in Liberia. You know, the issue of how, regardless of our status in general, one can access education across cultural and professional learning among teachers. You know, in this light, if you have access, if there is an access to education by the commoners, you observe that more people will have this change to go to school. But if they don't have that inclusive and equitably quality education to promote a lifelong learning opportunities, for all, you observe that the transformation aspect of education system has become dead. For instance, now we have an education system in Liberia that the least person, the lowest income person cannot afford to send his or her child to school. So one of the problems I see in the education system in Liberia is our equal access to education and affordable education for all. So that is one of the challenges faced in Liberia. And the second issue is the need for high trained and qualified professional teachers. You know, because of poverty in Liberia, because of the poverty-driven situation in Liberia, you observe that a man just graduated from high school because he don't have cash. He chooses to go in a classroom to teach where he don't have any experience when it comes to teaching. So education institution will accept that guy, what he is going to give to the student? Nothing. You observe that he is not going to give anything to the student. He just came from a high school, no training, no C certificate, no B certificate, no A certificate, no bachelor degree in the educational settings. That person may likely harm the student more than impacting their life because they don't have any prior experience in going to the classroom to teach. So these are two things that we face in Liberia educational system. And the third, if I may add, the third and the fourth, we'll have the third, which is budgetary allotment. Whenever you increase the budget of the educational sectors, you observe that you will have a trained and qualified instructor to teach in the sectors. But if you have only paid those who are in the sectors, you observe that people lost appetite of teaching in the sector. You will see people who are not capacitated, people who are not trained, going in the sectors to train, which will be very harmful to our students and our parents as well. Because if the child doesn't learn well, it affects the community as well. And the next issue, if we may just talk on the next issue, is the issue of a bias. I will observe that you are my friend, and based I know that you are not qualified. I will say, my man, say you don't have a job, can't be hustling into my school. Definitely, if I come to your school, I'm not going to deliver anything. And what I will recommend with all of the challenges is that the education system in Liberia and Africa as well should have a lesson implementation process wherein a teacher has to acquire lesson before going into the classroom, just how the nurses get lesson after every 2 to 3 years. So if you put these things into place, you observe that the education system will be very effective and good for our students. Then when it comes to the challenges faced into our implementation of project in Liberia is the issue of funds. You know, if government take the initiative to fund some youth-based organization in Liberia, you observe that more youth will be capacitated, more youth mind will be developed, more youth will have the sense of belonging of going into educational sectors to empower other youth. But if you don't form this organization, you observe that people will take their own money from their pocket to implement projects or go around people who have the passion to form their organization, who have the passion for education that can form their organization, they are very low. So that in result, more people don't have the passion to impact knowledge, who are qualified to impact knowledge. They sit at the back to look for job that will take care of their family and them instead of them going to the classroom to teach. So these are things that we face with in our institution and that of our organization in implementing educational projects in Liberia. And what I observe about Liberian, anything that is educational driven, you don't pay attention to it. But when it is politically driven, you put more attention to it and form it than educational driven activities. So these are our challenges we face in Liberia when it comes to implementation and educational sectors.
Thank you so much for such very comprehensive vision of challenges and also some proposals, suggestions that I think should be heard also by the world leaders, by the government in terms of treating this equally, because education for children is a fundamental right, for instance, proclaimed in the United Nations Declaration Human Rights, which says that education should be free and equal at least, and it's a fundamental basis. And it's very important also to allow on the basis of knowledge, on the basis of skills, talents, to help people to go further for postgraduate studies and to provide financial support for this as well. And here is a partnership between institutions is really vital, because I've for many times I've faced how non-governmental organizations, how businesses supported these primary schools projects, which is very important. Thank you so much for this conversation. And last but not the least, a very important point is your message to the world leaders, people watching us, to share your inspiration and help them also to create this multiplying effect on education. Vivian, would you like to start?
All right. I would say to everyone who is listening, an individual or a part of the government body or an agency, that to achieve equal access to quality education is our responsibility. We have a part to play. If you're a teacher, you teach well, provide the right resources, prepare for your lessons, and don't be a corrupt teacher. And if you're a government agency, you please need to step up to ensuring that the implementation of all the programs that will provide access to quality education is actually implemented effectively, and there is a level of accountability and there's a level of transparency. And for young people out there, you are a change maker. You need to take actions as well. Volunteer, all right? Because when we work collectively with the government, we achieve a better world. So we all have a part to play. Choose one of the sustainable development goals that reflects to you or you can relate to. And you know that through that, lives will be impacted. Adopt one. Just I have adopted two. I've adopted the SDG Goal 4 and 5. You should also adopt one or two or three at least, so we can make our world a better place. So go out there and be a change maker.
Thank you so much. It's highly inspirational, and I hope it should be heard and followed. Smith, please, your vision and motivation.
My wish and motivation is to encourage permanent world leader who have passion for the education sector, to always support the educational sector, so that the education sector can be a very much vibrant one. It can be very much transparent, and we that in the educational sector can be accountable of what we do to our audience. And secondly, those who are teachers, who are sacrificing their time and an effort in giving back to society by going into the classroom to teach, I am also encouraging them that let them be transparent and let them be accountable of what they do in the classroom and avoid corruption or exploitation. Because exploitation is another form of corruption, which is the gender-based violence issue, is also another form of corruption. So I want to encourage them that our girls' children are our future leader. So exploiting them through a change of grade is not good at all. Let them avoid such. So I would like to encourage them as well. And I would also like to encourage students who don't have the passion, whose society has given more time to them, but they don't have the passion to achieve their goal into the educational sector. There are a lot of means that in which they can achieve their goal through vocational and technical training, which is very cardinal in the educational sector as well. If you cannot go in the traditional classroom, you can also empower yourself through a vocational and technical training institution to empower your mind, to empower you through skill training as well. And also, this go to the government of the Republic of Liberia and Africa at large, try to increase the budgetary for in the educational sector so that education can be very strong tools as we implement the Sustainable Development Goal number 4 in the world as large. My final saying is this: we as activists advocating on the right of education, as education is one of human rights issue. We should also engage through a peaceful manner, not aggressive manner, through a peaceful manner to our legislators so that they can increase the budgetary allotment in the educational sectors so that our children can have a safe and fear-free educational system in the world. Thank you ever so much, Karine. So this is my word of encouragement to the world.